America is the most plausible and the most likely home base for a lost civilization.
There is an ancient Indian saying that something endures only as long as the last person who remembers it. My people have come to value memory over history, for history often serves the interests of those who seek to control it. Those who would smother the flame of memory to extinguish the dangerous fire of truth. Be wary of these individuals, for they are both dangerous and unwise.
The one that's presented to us is not history. It's all lies.
Well, it's not all lies.
All of it.
There's some lies.
I found that too.
Lost civilization in Grand Canyon was, Egyptian?
Deep beneath the canyon walls of the New Mexico desert lies an ancient, mysterious city. A place of magical rituals, celestial alignments, and supernatural myths. This vast city vanished for centuries, when its inhabitants seemingly disappeared overnight. Nearly 1,000 years ago, archaeologists and historians still cannot piece together exactly what happened here. So, we ventured into the ruins in search of clues to uncover the true history of the canyon. What we would soon find was a history far more shocking than anyone could have imagined. Join us for a unique exploration of Chaco Canyon, the home of the Ancient Ones, and what Graham Hancock has to say about this mystery.
Their main thing was, what are we here for? Why are we living this life? What happens to us when we die? They investigated that mystery more deeply than any other culture.
The Anasazi were an ancient people who lived on the Colorado Plateau.
Why did the ancient inhabitants of this land, the Anasazi, build these incredible cliff dwellings, only to abandon them decades later?
The reasons behind their construction of fortified cities remain unknown, but we do know that their entire civilization came to a sudden end when they abandoned their homes. Some have speculated that the nature spirits worshipped by the Anasazi transformed into destructive demons after the community failed to uphold their sacred laws. These beings would terrorize the population, often appearing to children before taking them away forever. The ancient Anasazi were highly skilled in mathematics, astronomy, and ritual magic, and some claim they also possessed supernatural powers. Dr. Thomas Horn recounts, "While researching our best-selling book on the path of the immortals, I was given the rare opportunity to sit down with Dr. Don Moe Jr., a third-generation medicine man. I spent a large part of the day with him during our investigation. He shared with me the oldest legends of the Anasazi, passed down by his great-grandfather, who had heard them from his ancestors. These stories include accounts of the Anasazi turning to sorcery, sacrifice, and cannibalism after losing their way and being driven mad by a reptilian creature, one that is depicted with a halo above its head. By the way, images of this being are found in the petroglyphs, and I believe they likely refer to the fallen reptile or reptiles of biblical lore, who also misled humanity." He began drawing in the sand and reciting the first part of the story of the ancient Anasazi, a tale passed down through generations. Dr. Moe had undoubtedly told this story countless times at the Navajo school. Though it was clear that this Navajo historian was indifferent to our cameras and recording, and in fact seemed uncomfortable with us filming, he nonetheless allowed us to proceed. I listened intently as he spoke for nearly 2 hours, sharing stories that had only been shared a few times in history. The legendary tales of creation, giants, a great flood, and a reptilian deceiver. All of this came from the voice of the nation's foremost medicine man, Dr. Moe. He even sang to us in the ancient tongue, which I would compare to Old Testament history, expressed in their earliest language using Navajo. For centuries, tribal elders have passed down stories of astonishing supernatural events that occurred in the canyon. Events so shocking that the Ancient Ones carved images into the canyon walls as a semi-permanent record of what transpired. The 15-mile-long canyon is home to more than a dozen large complexes, with the largest being Pueblo Bonito. This massive structure has over 800 rooms and sections that rise more than 5 stories high, tucked into a cliffside. Hidden behind Pueblo Bonito lies one of the canyon's most revealing secrets. 3 feet carved into the mountainside, each with 6 toes. These 6-toed carvings are believed to depict the feet of a Nephilim giant mentioned in the Bible, specifically in the Book of Chronicles, chapter 20, verse 6. And yet again there was war with Gath, where was a man of great stature, whose fingers and toes were 4 and 20, 6 on each hand, and 6 on each foot, and he was also the son of a giant. Legends from across the American Southwest speak of giants, 6-fingered, red-haired giants who once terrorized the people. These tales describe evil, cannibalistic giants who would hunt the tribes with an insatiable hunger for human flesh. These giants are said to have roamed these areas for thousands of years. But the legends don't just talk about giants. They also mention monstrous creatures summoned into the canyon. These beings were carved into the canyon walls for all to see. As Dr. Thomas Horn explains, not only did Dr. Moe validate the ancient, widely recorded story of those who come through portals and the profound impact they've had on biblical and global history, past and present, but he also connected Navajo Indian myths with our understanding of the 6 days of creation. He detailed the arrival of the Nephilim and their link to the judgment of the global flood, followed by the repopulation of people around the world and a second wave of giants. But on several occasions, when I pushed Dr. Moe for more detail, he veered off script, providing insights that bridged the official Navajo narrative with biblical accounts. For example, as Moses was following the official story, the Parks Department in the Four Corners region tells about how the Anasazi didn't disappear, but migrated out and became the modern Pueblo Indians, I voiced doubts to Dr. Moe about that version. He responded with a small grin, saying, "Well, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but—" And then he shared the older stories his grandfather had passed down about how these mysterious people actually vanished after coming under the control of a reptilian creature with a halo, a carnivorous being suspiciously similar to what I later described in The Path of the Immortals as fiery seraphim, derived from the Hebrew word zerep, meaning fiery serpent. Graham Hancock, a man who's spent much of his life challenging the accepted stories of history, and Keanu Reeves, the actor from The Matrix, were out there filming for the 2nd season of Ancient Apocalypse. They spent days wandering through those ancient ruins, filming, exploring, trying to uncover truths long buried. And then, as suddenly as they came, they stopped, packed up their cameras, their crew, and left without a word. It left folks scratching their heads, wondering why. Chaco Canyon is a special place, you know. The kind of place that makes you feel small in the best way. They say it was once the heart of a great civilization, a people who built with precision and purpose. The great Kivas, those circular ceremonial rooms, stand as silent witnesses to something we don't fully understand. Archaeologists will tell you one story about trade and rituals, but there's a feeling you get standing there that tells you there's more to it. Something deeper. Something almost sacred. Now, Graham Hancock, he's not the sort to shy away from controversy. He's been called all sorts of names, pseudoscientist, conspiracy theorist, but all he's really doing is asking questions. Questions about who we are, where we come from, and what we might have forgotten along the way. And Keanu, well, I can't say why he joined this particular journey, but maybe he's just like the rest of us, curious, wanting to understand the past to make better sense of the present. Why did they leave? Well, there are whispers, as there always are. Some say they found something, evidence, perhaps, that was too much for the powers that be. Others think they were pressured to stop, their work seen as too dangerous or disruptive. Then again, maybe scattered throughout Chaco Canyon are large, circular structures known as Kivas. These perfectly round formations are built into the earth and were designed for ceremonies, religious practices, and magical rituals. The Anasazi, according to their oral traditions, used these kivas to summon monstrous beings into this dimension. Dr. Thomas Horn elaborates on this, recounting a conversation with Dr. Mose. When I told Dr. Mose what we had learned from the Apache about cannibalistic giants and how God destroyed them in a flood, he looked directly into the camera and said, "Oh, yes." Then he picked up an illustrated book he authored, used in Navajo Nation schools and libraries, and showed us an artist's depiction of a giant, standing between 30 and 40 feet tall. He explained, "There was a time when the earth was overrun with these giants and alien gods who destroyed and devoured people. Some were human-like, while others were monstrous human-animal hybrids." Dr. Mose then recounted the Navajo legend of the White Shale Woman, who gave birth to two pivotal figures in Navajo mythology, twin miracle-performing sons. One of them, whose name translates to Slayer of Alien Gods, and his brother are said to have defeated many giants, hybrids, and monsters that were threatening humanity. As Dr. Mose described these tales, Dr. Horn noted their similarity to biblical accounts, such as David slaying Goliath and other giants. Dr. Mose also mentioned that when Christian missionaries shared their stories of giants and the Great Flood, the Navajo people smiled and explained that they already knew these stories, as they had been passed down by their ancestors. The Ancient Ones also left their history and events in petroglyphs, carvings that serve as records of their experiences. One recurring symbol is the spiral, which appears repeatedly in ancient cultures around the world, from the jungles of Peru to the icy tundras of Siberia. The spiral is often interpreted as a portal, an interdimensional gateway used by entities to travel between worlds. This connection is supported by both the petroglyphs themselves and the stories they convey. Now let's take a closer look at some of the petroglyphs discovered during our exploration of Chaco Canyon. What we see are depictions of supernatural creatures emerging directly from spirals and manifesting in our reality. Time and time again, the same imagery appears carved into the canyon walls, monsters coming out of these spirals. In some cases, they're still connected to the spiral, while in others, they're standing right next to it. There are also images of humans being pulled into the spiral upside down, only for a monster to emerge on the other side. This recurring theme can be found throughout Chaco Canyon at numerous petroglyph sites, and all of them seem to be telling the same story. As we explored the canyon, we encountered several fascinating petroglyphs, depictions of monsters, dragons, gray aliens, and strange-looking beings. However, I never found what I was searching for: the six-toed footprints of the Nephilim giants. These footprints have been documented multiple times by mainstream publications, but they were nowhere to be seen. I started to wonder if these footprints were being deliberately hidden, so I decided to ask a park ranger. The conversation went something like this. "Excuse me, sir, can I ask you a quick question?" The ranger replied, "Of course. How can I help you?" I asked, "I'm looking for the six-toed footprints carved into the canyon wall behind Casa Bonita. Do you know where they are?" The ranger responded, "Ah, yes, those footprints. They're located in an off-limits area. Unfortunately, it's closed to the public." Closed to the public? It makes you wonder what else might be restricted. As we were leaving the park, we decided to stop by the visitor center and watch the 30-minute video they show to guests. What we saw there was startling. The video displayed petroglyphs from within the park that we had never encountered. Perfectly clear images of interdimensional beings with pyramids stacked on their heads. We had walked through the entire park and hadn't seen anything like this. It left me questioning. Where are these petroglyphs, and what else might they be keeping from us? In 1999, an anthropologist from the University of Utah published a book titled Man-Corn: Cannibalism and Violence in the Prehistoric American Southwest. The term man-corn is a direct translation of the Aztec word tiac talawai, referring to a sacred meal involving human meat cooked with corn. In the book, the author presents evidence of cannibalism at 72 ancient Anasazi sites, including Chaco Canyon. Forensic analysis of bones discovered at these sites reveals they were cannibalized. But by whom? Who were the ones consuming the Anasazi? After Chaco Canyon's collapse around 1150 AD, the remaining Anasazi scattered. They retreated into isolated canyons and began constructing their homes on cliff faces or fortified mesas. To archaeologists, it appeared as though the Anasazi were gripped by an intense paranoia, hiding from a formidable enemy. But despite extensive searches, no obvious enemy was identified. Or was there? Dr. Thomas Horn suggests, considering that these legends emerged globally at roughly the same time, it seems more likely than not that they align with the accounts of major ancient cultures worldwide. These consistent stories speak of gods who descended from the heavens or emerged through spiral vortices to take on physical forms. From Rome to Greece, and earlier still to Egypt, Persia, Assyria, Babylonia, and Sumer, the earliest civilizations recount a time when powerful beings, known to the Hebrews as Watchers, and in Genesis as the Bene Elohim, sons of God, interacted with humans, creating part celestial, part terrestrial hybrids called Nephilim. According to the Bible, this occurred when men began to multiply on earth, and daughters were born to them. The sons of God saw the women's beauty and took wives, resulting in extraordinary offspring. Genesis 6:4 records this first incursion of hybrid beings and six-toed giants. There were giants in the earth in those days. This refers to the pre-flood era, as well as a second incursion after the flood, when the sons of God again mingled with the daughters of men, producing mighty men of renown. The ancient records and oral histories of various cultures across the world often speak of gods and celestial beings interacting with humans in ways that defy natural laws. One recurring theme is the hybridization of human beings with these divine or extraterrestrial entities, resulting in offspring known as the Nephilim, giants of incredible size and strength described in the Bible and other ancient texts. Their presence was marked by an overwhelming influence on the world, shaping history in profound ways. Genesis 6:4 describes the Nephilim as the mighty men and men of renown who existed before the Great Flood, suggesting that these beings were not only physically imposing but also had significant roles in the affairs of humanity. This passage, though brief, has sparked centuries of debate regarding the nature of these giants, their origin, and their influence on ancient civilizations. Some scholars believe that the Nephilim were the product of fallen angels, referred to as the sons of God, intermingling with human women, while others suggest that these beings were simply kings or rulers with extraordinary power. Ancient texts outside of the Bible also provide insight into the existence of these giants. The Book of Enoch, an ancient Jewish text that was excluded from the canonical Bible, elaborates further on the fallen angels, called the Watchers, and their interactions with humanity. According to the Book of Enoch, the Watchers descended to earth and taught humans forbidden knowledge, including the secrets of heaven, astrology, and the use of weaponry. In exchange for this knowledge, they fathered the Nephilim, whose massive size and supernatural abilities made them legendary figures in ancient folklore. These accounts are not limited to the Bible or Jewish texts alone. Similar stories of gods or supernatural beings descending to Earth and interacting with humans are found in cultures all around the world. In Greek mythology, the gods of Mount Olympus frequently descended to Earth, often taking human form and engaging in various affairs with mortals. Similarly, the ancient Sumerians spoke of the Anunnaki, a group of gods who came from the heavens and interacted with humanity, imparting advanced knowledge and sometimes taking human wives. These stories share striking similarities to the biblical account of the Nephilim, suggesting that the myth of giant hybrid beings might be a widespread cultural memory of actual events or encounters with extraterrestrial entities. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below and subscribe for more content like this.